The NaviPro IT Break, 15 entertaining minutes with our experts on hot topics. They're designed to help you keep up to date on the latest IT trends.
Hi, and welcome to our episode 64 of our IT Break. Today we'll talk about modernizing IT infrastructure, and I'm your host today, Alain Malbeuf, solution specialist for NaviPro, and I'm with my guest, Ronald Trimble from Nutanix. Hi, Ronald, how are you?
Good, and how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Christmas is coming, so it's a good season, I guess. So, Ronald, you've been working for a few times now at Nutanix, and we've heard about Nutanix hyperconverged infrastructure for a while now. So can you just explain to us what is the Nutanix solution, the HCI hyperconverged infrastructure, and what's the benefit there for customers?
Sure. Yeah. So thanks for having us today. And you know, to really briefly go back in time, Nutanix is really looking to solve the problems that customers traditionally have with, a traditional three-tier infrastructure, right? Where you had separate silos for those different infrastructure pieces, right? Anybody who's worked in that world knows it's extremely complex. It's tough to manage. It doesn't scale very well, right? This is why the hyperscalers, the Amazons, the Googles, the Facebooks of the world, they all moved away from that infrastructure a good number of years ago in that style of doing things, right? They were looking for a different solution. And that's what our founders at Nutanix were looking to bring to the masses, right? So they said, well, surely, that this three-tier infrastructure, this isn't going to scale to the size that companies currently need, right? It was fine for what it did, 20 years ago. But now as businesses continue to grow and need more and more resources, we're just finding it doesn't scale well. And that takes people's focus away from what really matters in their business, right? What matters in an enterprise is the applications, performance, availability, things like that. And a three-tier infrastructure does not allow them to focus on those things, right? You spend your time, worrying about hardware, managing hardware, worrying about scaling things. So Nutanix actually looks to solve all those problems, right? By bringing a simple interface, very consistent performance, making it infinitely scalable with known performance throughout. So every node you add will bring you the same amount of performance you'd expect from the previous one, so it doesn't trail off. So a nice linear performance graph. So Nutanix really looks to bring all those benefits to people who might have that still traditional three-tier infrastructure.
Nice. Yeah, and in terms of workload, are there any workload that are best suited for Nutanix, or generally speaking, what about what suits best on Nutanix in terms of workload?
Sure. Nutanix, we actually got our start with things like VDI workloads. It was very popular on Nutanix early on. And a lot of customers or a lot of people, even in the industry, might not have used Nutanix themselves, have come to know Nutanix as like a VDI company, right? Where they just that's what we do. And we obviously do that extremely well. But in the years since, Nutanix has moved away from VDI, and we still do that quite well. But we've expanded into all enterprise applications, everything from medical imaging, databases, file services, you name it now. If it's in the enterprise, there's a good chance that it will run seamlessly on the Nutanix platform. The only areas I ever caution my customers or the people I talk to about where it might not fit is in the high performance compute arena, right? Where you have very specialized processors, specialized chips that are capable of doing, significant throughput and workloads. But aside from that, which you don't see very often, Nutanix is ideally suited to tackle just about any enterprise workload.
Oh, nice. So yeah, because you were talking about VDI, I can clearly understand the reason why it was one of their first success, because you just told us before that it's linear scaling. So
correct.
Obviously, same as the VDI. We have a number of users, need a number of resources. So I can see the fit there. I think I've seen in the past that even system like SAP system can now run on Nutanix. So
yep. SAP, HANA, Oracle, bring your largest databases, your the super large environments. Nutanix has no issues running those on our platform.
Great. So ERP can even run there. So that's good. So I mean, I need to discuss about this. Public cloud adoption. Everyone's talking about the cloud. You go. The executive in the company, they all want to hear about cloud adoption. So where does Nutanix stand in terms of cloud?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a fair question, right? And what we like to say at Nutanix is that, let's look at the reasons why people are looking to go to the public cloud. It's not necessarily that they want the destination, it's that they want the features that it provides, right? Public cloud is more of a mindset about, an experience. It's not about a landing place. Nobody says, "Oh, I need my servers to live in, here in the eastern coast of the U.S., in Virginia," right? That doesn't matter. That it's not the consideration, right? What people are really looking for is the ability to buy just what they need when they want it, right? Fractional consumption. So you only need small bits and pieces. They want it to be simple. They want to, have it just in time, right? You only buy it when you need it, right? So you deploy those resources just when you need them. That's saving your company money, right? You're not making large 3 and 5 year capital expense purchases up front. You're just doing those as you go along, right? And those are all, features that Nutanix brings to the platform, right? Nobody's going to the public cloud saying, "Oh, I want to go to the public cloud because it's running on this particular hardware or it's running with this hypervisor." Largely, that's all an abstraction, right? You can find that information. You can find out what type of servers Amazon is running or Microsoft's running. You can find out the hypervisor, but it's irrelevant. People are looking for simplicity, ease of use, and those are the exact benefits that Nutanix brings to our platform, right? With the introduction of what we now call NC2, Nutanix Cloud Clusters. Nutanix has actually made that transition to public cloud seamless for our users, right? So if a customer has already adopted Nutanix, Nutanix can actually automate the deployment of a public cloud cluster where users can then move their workloads right into that public cloud seamlessly from their on-prem to the public cloud solution, and thus give them the best of both worlds, right? Choose where you want a workload to live, right? And we give you the tools that will make that very simple. So for a customer that's been trying, they've had, like you mentioned, that mandate from their executives to get into the public cloud. Nutanix gives them the easy button, right? They don't need to learn or go and hire people who are familiar with public cloud security or infrastructure, anything like that. If they're already using Nutanix, it's as simple as simply saying, "I'd like to deploy a Nutanix cluster in the public cloud," and you choose your public cloud that you want it to live in. Right now, we support both Amazon and Azure. So you can go to either place and have your public cloud spun up there, and it becomes a seamless part of your environment, right? I'm sure your customer or your listeners are familiar with Nutanix Prism, which is our management pane, our management interface. In Prism, a cluster that exists in the public cloud looks like any other cluster. The only difference is the hardware type that is running, right? So that actually makes it a seamless type of transition. So your operations remain exactly the same. Any type of custom scripting you might have done, like internally, stays exactly the same. No refactoring of virtual machines. It's actually very simple to use, very simple to get to, and gives the customers quite a few benefits from just going straight to public cloud directly.
Nice. So I heard you saying choice of cloud provider.
Yep.
So that comes after choice of hardware. So you can choose your platform, you can choose your hypervisor, I think also, and you can choose definitely your cloud provider. So
you can, right? Nutanix is all about giving our customers choice at every step of the way, right? For anyone like myself in my former career, I spent a lot of time in the data center, and we found ourselves, getting pigeonholed into certain tracks of technology, right? Well, because we made a choice 10 years ago, we're now stuck with a specific choice in the future. And we see that all too commonly across our customer base, right? What Nutanix aims to do is to actually make that, a seamless choice where it doesn't matter where you made the decision. Nutanix is always going to give you options into the future, right? Whether, like you said, whether the choice of hardware you're running, the choice of hypervisor, the choice of cloud platform, you're going to have choices in the future. And I firmly believe that in the future, the cloud itself will be another commodity, right? People aren't going to say, oh, I only run in Amazon or I only run in Azure. We're going to find people running in multiple clouds and simply putting what workload, what works best in a particular cloud. Maybe it's based on cost. Maybe it's based on locality to their end users. Whatever it might be, that day will be here because of companies like Nutanix pushing and making the cloud itself just another commodity, right? We're going to make it so you can go drop into any single cloud and it doesn't matter, thus giving customers choice and leverage when they're trying to compete for prices and contracts and things like that.
Yeah, that's what we call a hybrid multi-cloud, I guess. So,
you got that 100% correct.
So we're talking about modernizing the IT infrastructure, transformation. With that, I mean, might comes a learning curve for the customer. To understand their new environment, to be able to operate this new type of environment. So how easy is it for the customer to move on to a Nutanix platform?
I'll say it's very simple, right? I like to give the comparison, right? I have my iPhone right next to me. It's that simple. You don't need to be trained in how to use an iPhone, right? You simply pick it up and you can intuitively start to move through the interfaces and figure out how it works, right? Nutanix is simple in the same terms, right? Once you're signed in, it's very simple. Categories, if you want to do something with storage, you'd go into the storage menu. Do some of the virtual machines, VM menu, right? So on and so forth. It's really simple and intuitive to use. And it's as simple as then, all those features that, sometimes appear in our competitor products, that are out in the marketplace. There's too many choices. Nutanix has really skinnied that all down and abstracted a lot of that, right? We've actually built that into automation in the back end. So you don't need to make a choice as an end user. The system is going to do what's best and use, AI type principles to determine, okay, this workload should move to this place. We don't need to ask about this, right? We'll move that so it will perform better. Making little choices like that and abstracting all that from the end user so that the interface itself is extremely simple and for anybody to pick up, right? I teach Nutanix boot camps all the time, and it's usually the CEO or CTO who comes in, and it happens quite frequently. They're just there to get to see what Nutanix has to offer, and then we get into the hands-on labs, and they start clicking through the interface. And by the end of 15 minutes, they've deployed their own storage container, they've deployed virtual machines, they've placed it on their own network, right? And inevitably, one of them will say, "Oh, why do I pay my specialist so much for this? Right? This is really easy." And really, realistically, that's the way it should be, right? Our former founder, Dheeraj Pandey, used to always say the experience should be delightful, right? That was his favorite word to always use internally. It should be delightful. And if it's not, if you're not pleased with the experience and it's not as simple as it's supposed to be, right, then we're doing something wrong. So Nutanix really drives towards that. It's very similar to public cloud. Like to get a virtual machine or an instance of the public cloud isn't hard. It's everything that comes after it, like security and everything that makes it way more complex. But getting the instance itself is really simple. And that's very much the principles Nutanix is built on it, right? Except we've made every step of the process very simple to do.
So a lot of automation in the background that brings the one-click everything possible. Great, yeah. Great. So one last thing before we end this tech talk. We cannot not talk about security. Okay, everyone's talking about security nowadays. Ransomware are everywhere. So how does Nutanix can protect the customer data in terms of security and ransomware protection?
Wow, that's a very broad topic, but Nutanix has got lots of different ways to address that, right? The first one being that security is built into the platform itself. One of the earliest customers in Nutanix was the U.S. federal government. And they mandated that security be built in right at the development level as you're developing the product, making sure that security is considered every step of the way. And then Nutanix went a few steps further, right, by implementing what we call STIGs, right, the Security Technology Implementation Guides, right? Think of those hardening guides that everybody used to have, the 100 and some page documents that you'd run through after you build your environment, right? We've actually automated all that and made that. We put those guides into machine readable code, right? Like JSON file formats where you can actually load those to your system and it will harden your system right there, right? And what's even better is not only does it harden the system, but it will make sure it stays in compliance. So if something were to fall out of spec from that guide that you'd previously established, again, you didn't have to do anything, you simply upload it to the system and now it's hardened, right? But if something falls out of spec, it will actually set it back for you, right? So that you can't like accidentally make a mistake and do that. That's just inherent to the platform itself, right? That's all comes straight out of the box. Nutanix has additional products like our Flow microsegmentation product, right? Which allows you to segment, classes of traffic, right? Production, development, HR, whatever it is, externally facing. But you can actually set, policies around that traffic and control the flow. So that you can have that, end-to-end microsegmentation. Best part about that is it's built straight into the platform and can be enabled with a checkbox within the Prism interface. That's simple to deploy. It's usually the kind of thing you can have up and running within half an hour. It's very simple to configure and deploy, fully graphical interface. And then Nutanix has got additional products like our unified storage platform, which introduces, Nutanix files that has analytics built into it, audit trails on all the files, and even scans for common types of malware, right? And if it detects it, will block that from entering your environment. Security Central does the same thing at a higher level. It's a as a service offering from Nutanix that will actually do the same thing, right? Watching for types of malware, preventing that from getting into your environment. So lots of great pieces, for security built in, and we didn't even touch on replication that's built into the Nutanix product itself, right? So if you've got two Nutanix clusters, you can replicate the snapshots from place to place. And again, not needing a third-party tool to be able to do that. Built right into the product. Additional things like immutable object storage, right? In Nutanix S3, what we call Nutanix Objects is the product that exists. So lots of different security components in Nutanix. Lots of ways to prevent, detect, analyze, figure out what's going on in your environment, and help people recover if they should fall victim to any type of malware.
Great. So thanks, Ronald. It was a really nice talking to you today. Hearing from you from Nutanix. For our listener, you'll be able to watch and listen to this recording on our Content Hub. And now I think last thing I'll put my Nutanix hat on. So thank you, Ronald.
It's been a pleasure, Alan. Thank you.
You want access to a range of cutting-edge information? Go to our online content area at hub.navipro.com.